Yo guys, what's up? We are going to be going into the best weapon setups for every weapon that you'll have access to in Moco right now. And I'm saying that with a caveat. The caveat is that most of you are going to be stuck at this stage, which is level 14. The reason being is that you get a quest, it basically says get level 16, which in my opinion is this weird progression rule with Moco. Like everything is so fast and blisteringly paced, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, now just go grind projects and jobs and events for like 3 or 4 hours in a row until you get to level 16. So it's kind of like this weird progression rule. But it also means there is a moment in the game to talk about the best weapon setups with what you'll have access to right now. I'm going to assume that you are level 14, which gives you access to the pepper spray. If not, get level 14 because I do use the pepper spray in a lot of my builds. Right, let's start off with everyone's favorite weapon, which is the wolf stick. And by the way, guys, I've done lots of content on this channel. I'm going to be doing a lot of Moco. I'm going to be hardcore focusing Moco. If you like Moco and you want to get more Moco content, please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be doing loads of it. All right, so the wolf stick. This is everyone's favorite weapon, I think. I think it's probably the most used weapon in the game, just because it's very cool. It summons a pet. It's a great single target weapon. Everybody likes to be the DPS. No one likes to be the tanker and the healer, but wolf stick gives you a bit of the best of both. You have someone that can tank in the form of a pet, but you also deal a lot of DPS, especially to bosses and single targets. That being said, when I am solo playing, and to be honest with you, this is the setup that I use for bossing as well. When I'm solo playing, this is quite a single target focused weapon. And when you're in solo and going around maps and dealing with large volumes of enemies, you are obviously going to have some AoE or area of effect capabilities, which is why you can set up your build to supplement the poor area of effect capabilities of the wolf stick. And that is what I've done right here. So, starting off with Vitamin Shot. Vitamin Shot, in my opinion, is probably one of the best gadgets in the game, period. Works with pretty much every weapon, but especially so with the wolf stick because it both amplifies you and your pet and heals you and your pet. So it's a great self-healing steroid for both you and your pet. Pepper spray. I wasn't sure about this. Actually, just even yesterday, I wasn't sure about this, but having used it on a lot more frequent basis, it is a very strong area of effect damaging tool that also controls large volumes of mobs, and it's great in conjunction with smart fireworks. You can use pepper spray to slow them all down and group them all up and get maximum impact out of your smart fireworks. So that is why I've got the pepper spray smart fireworks combo going on. We've then got vampire teeth, which for solo play is pretty good. If you're in a rift and you don't need this, you can switch this out potentially to auto zapper, but auto zapper is less useful when you're not doing single target focused work. Then I've got explodomatic trigger and unstable laser. Explodomatic trigger, again, it's just the best area effect, like crowd busting tool in the game, in my opinion. Like, combined with the rest of your gear, you blow up very large volumes. Like on invasion rifts, where you have unbelievable amounts of enemies coming at you, boom, this blows everybody up. And then we have unstable laser. Even though I know it says it's best when fighting large volumes of enemies, this is actually a really great single target tool as well. So this gives a little bit of that single target amplification that, you know, we don't really have outside of just being a single target weapon. And this, in my opinion, is the best setup for this particular weapon. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to go and jump into some maps and play it through. All right, we're going to jump into the Infested Forest to just kind of show this build off. Obviously, we could go to the Shrine Caves, which is more of an equal level, but they don't have many grouped up enemies. I mean, there isn't very like large volumes of groups of enemies unless there's kind of an event going on. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you it here where there is a lot more grouped enemy combat like here. So here we just pop our thing, and you can see like with our explodomatic, we just get rid of these really small groups of enemies. I'm going to group all of these guys up. Look, usually this would be where the wolf stick's not particularly good, but we're going to use the fireworks. Gives us a really easy kill off. And now we've got the scavenger over here. You're going to use the pepper spray. Really good at just clearing out. And then when you do have a big single target nuisance to deal with, and even if I don't use any of that, if I just use the vitamin shot, the explodomatic is really good at dealing with these smaller groups of enemies. So that is why I use that kind of stuff when I'm playing by myself, because it gives me that balance. And then when I have just a single target that I want to care about, I still use pepper spray because it's still pretty strong, but the single target damage is still very respectable. Now, if I can find one of the larger boss monsters somewhere, I mean, there's just like, I'm going to group all these guys up here. Just going to use fireworks because why not? Explodomatic makes this really easy. Pepper spray makes this really easy. It's even if we just get even if you just get one kill on one of them, like it starts a chain reaction that can basically blow loads of stuff up like that. Like see, like that right there, just dealt with all of those enemies really quickly. And then with pepper spray as well, it makes smaller groups of enemies more trivial for this weapon that traditionally this weapon would struggle with those smaller groups of enemies. All right, we're gonna get through. So yeah, this is the setup that I like to use for the wolf sticks. Pretty strong. Now, the Techno Fists. These are interesting weapons. They're a bit of a hybrid weapon. They're not great single target. They're not great AoE. So you kind of have to build in a way that supplements both. And I've come up with a build that I really like with these weapons that makes them feel really good. So we're going to run Vitamin Shot because it is a 10 combo attack to get the Mega Sphere out. And that is a big combo, like a big combo attack, like a really big combo attack. So that's why I'm jumping with the Vitamin Shot. It just helps you get there a lot more quickly. Monster Taser helps us with our single target damage. It's also a great way of triggering our Explodomatic trigger in more tough packs to get through. We're going to use our Pepper Spray, lower cooldown, makes our damage output more consistent than having to rely on Fireworks, which is the highest cooldown gadget in the game. So this is one of the only builds where I don't use the Fireworks on because, again, because it's a slow build up for the combo, I want to have more consistent damage output that helps me across the board. And it's one of the only builds that I don't really use the Vampire Teeth in. Why are we not using Vampire Teeth? Well, you don't need to. This is a ranged weapon. Ranged weapons are inherently safer and therefore come with more downsides from damage output. So the ranged weapon is inherently safer here for Techno Fists, and therefore that means we can kind of go all in on damage. So we're going to go Unstable Laser, we're going to go Explodomatic Trigger, and we're going to go Auto Zapper. This is going to help us with both single target from Auto Zapper, and we're going to have a really nice combo between the Unstable Laser and the Explodomatic Trigger. This is the build that I think has made this feel really good to play. I've always felt that the Techno Fists feel kind of bad to play, and I feel like this is the build that's kind of got me to the point where I feel like, oh, okay, this actually feels quite good to play. This feels like what the Techno Fists was supposed to do. So, as in, this feels like what the Techno Fists was supposed to do. So I'm going to go and jump and try and do some single target stuff here to see if that helps. Reboot the Mobot. Let's go. So already got about 50 people on it already. Great. Try and find a group of enemies. Here we go. Got a group of enemies here. Boom. Really nice. Use the Pepper Spray as well. Just jump in. Use the Vitamin Shot. And again, I like to use the Monster Taser to get that initial explosion. But you can see, like, this just feels good to play. Like, I really do encourage you to try this one out. You don't need to have any sustain with this build because you have that ranged capability. So you don't need to rely on having things like the Vampire Teeth to help sort of support you when you're taking damage because it's not necessary. You have Vitamin Shot as well, so should you take any damage, or at least any little sort of small amounts of damage, you have the Vitamin Shot to kind of help you out. You can use that. It's really nice at chasing down the scavengers. And boom. Love this. This honestly makes the Techno Fists. This build has turned the Techno Fists for me from one of the worst builds in the game to one of the most, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Satisfying. It feels really satisfying to play this Techno Fist build. It's great. Okay, so this is the setup that I like to run for the Monster Slugger. So this weapon has very good base area of effect damage. This is kind of a weapon that is good at area of effect. That means you don't need to supplement it too much with things like Pepper Spray. I still like to use Smart Fireworks. I think they are very adaptable, even if they're on a long cooldown. Vitamin Shot is just, I think, great with any weapon, apart from maybe the potentially the sword and shield, the toothpick weapon, the tanking weapon. But I also like to include Monster Taser over Pepper Spray. The reason being is that this weapon doesn't have great single target focus. So bringing in Monster Taser just gives you a 5-second spammable single target damage ability that is very, very good for dealing with single targets. We're going to include the Explodomatic Trigger, Vampire Teeth, and Unstable Laser. Again, this is just, again, the combo between Explodomatic Trigger and Unstable Laser is really nice, and it's going to help amplify how good this is at dealing with area of effect, small packs of enemies. All right, so we're going to be going into Infested Forest, and we're going to try and find some groups of enemies to show you what this is like. We're going to use the Vitamin Shot on ourselves, and look, you just blow everything up because of the area of effect damage of this is really strong. So we're going to jump in here, get these guys to come over here. I like to use Fireworks, obviously, in these situations, and even then, with the Taser, single targets, the smaller single targets are fine. With Explodomatic and your laser shooter, You can hit lots of enemies at once, get massive explosions. It's really good for just dealing with large groups of enemies like this. Just blow them all up. Much better than most weapons at dealing with the smaller packs of enemies. This weapon is very area of effect focused. It is not the strongest single target weapon that you're going to find in the game, which is fine. It's not designed to be. It is, you know, each weapon has its niche, and this weapon's niche is very much blowing up groups of enemies. And the way that I've got it going just means you can chain reaction the smaller groups of enemies very, very easily. Try and find another little group over here. Got the scavenger here. So you can see you can actually stun and do good single target damage with the monster taser. That's why I brought it out. The monster taser gives you that ability to just have some edge on the single target damage. Like this. Nice, there we go. Moco Tacticat. Boom! I have never saved a Tacticat before, I don't think. So yeah, that's what I want to show you. I just think that this weapon works really well for just speed. I call it my speed clearing weapon. If you ever just want to like run around and just clear large groups of enemies at once, this is the weapon for it. It's very good at just speed clearing stuff very nicely. Where it struggles is it's going to be with your single target boss fighty type, you know, situations. And with Vitamin Shot, this thing powers out the damage in groups as well. It's just absolutely fantastic for that. But even then you can see, okay, I'm going to show you here. I mean, we've got a single target fight. Actually, good timing. This is not great in single target, but with the taser, you can be very respectable against these kind of boss monsters as well. So that's why we include the taser. And what I'd always encourage you to do is think about if you know that a weapon has a specific use or a specific niche, you add in a couple of gadgets or passives to help compensate for its weaknesses. You can go all in on the sort of the strengths of a weapon, obviously. So I could just go full AoE with this, but frankly, like Moco doesn't have situations where one or the other is always going to be best. Like even in Rifts, you're going to have some AoE clearing responsibilities, right? So you want to have a little bit of kind of the ability to do a bit of both. I just love this weapon. This weapon is just so much fun. Like for just blowing up the smaller packs of enemies, this weapon is just so much fun. Like, just really easy to just blow things up. But there we go. Let's move on to the next one. If you have hit level 15, you'll have access to the portable portal. One of the coolest weapons, I think, in the game. And actually, I might do an entirely separate video on this, testing out all the different gadgets that works with the portable portal. But fill the combo bar to activate your rightmost gadget for free. And the cooldown on that depends on the cooldown of the gadget. This is an area effect weapon. So very similar to the Techno Fists, we don't need to build this to be sustain focused, and we also kind of want to supplement its single target damage. I think a 5-second taser on a small combo with the portable portal is a really great setup. But I do encourage you to experiment with this. I only unlocked this weapon today, but this to me feels like something that's going to be really cool to play. So I'm going to go and try it out now. I think the low cooldown taser is just going to give us a huge DPS boost in general, especially in like real terms. So let's go and see how this works. So you can see, like, even on 5 seconds, even on 5 seconds, right? It's still a relatively big cooldown build-up. So if you had one of the longer cooldown ones, it's probably going to take a very long time. But this feels great to play. I'm going to use my Vitamin Shot as well. Yeah, just blasting out some single target stuff here. Obviously, you can play around having some of the. Obviously, you can play around with having some of the longer cooldown ones in there, but it just feels like the monster taser is going to be the best bet for this one because it's a short cooldown. I'd be interested to see whether that is a linear combo builder. Like if I had the fireworks in here, would that end up being like 4 times as long to build the combo bar? I'm going to assume it would be, otherwise it would feel a little bit overpowered, but hey, this is feeling pretty good. Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at what our single target damage feels like versus the Axe Hopper. Because I can basically double spam tasers, right? And it's, you know, single target stuns as well, which is great. Like this honestly feels really quite good against single target. I can use my taser and then, you know, every few seconds, especially with Vitamin Shot, every few seconds I'm able to use my taser again. Feels great, actually. This is really, really, really cool. The other one that we could potentially have in there is like Vitamin Shot, where we use Vitamin Shot to go into like a self-sustaining permanent attack speed boost where you're getting permanent sustain as well. Like that actually could be pretty cool. And I definitely think it's worth testing out. I might even test it out in just a moment as well. But give me a second. I'm just having fun with this version of the build. All right, we've tested this one out. This feels pretty good. Let's go home and try out the other one really quickly. Ooh, I unlocked a new outfit. Right, let's go ahead and try doing this. I'm going to do this really quickly. This is we're experimenting on the fly here, guys. We're experimenting on the fly. Let's jump in and see what we can do. So if I do this, interesting. That is interesting. So you can't use it to self-attack speed spread, or you can. Oh, it does it again. Yeah, no, you can. You can get it in perpetuity. You have to hit things. That's why you have to do it. You have to hit things. Okay. So you can get it in like perpetuity. You can kind of get the vitamin shot going just consistently. And then we can use it. You can basically have infinite sustain. This is pretty cool. I mean, that might even also increase your DPS output more. I would encourage you guys to test out both and see kind of which one you feel makes sense, because you can do both here. And I think like you could either increase your DPS by having a very high attack speed permanently, and then obviously have really high sustain. Just feels like the sustain is somewhat wasted with a ranged weapon, but that's fine. Okay, so you can't get it going. You can kind of get it going in perpetuity. Look at that. I've got a super high damage. It just doesn't feel as explosive as using the taser, right? But you get basically infinite sustain. So it's a way of like infinitely sustaining yourself versus some of the harder setups. But there are two really good ways to use it, in my opinion. So yeah, that's really cool. With the Staff of Good Vibes, like it's obviously meant to be more of a supportive rift weapon. And so therefore it's very healing focused. So frankly, like obviously because it's got a really strong combo attack, you want to use it with Vitamin Shot to get those burst heals off. If you're going full healer, I would recommend that you maybe switch out the Monster Taser for the Splash Heal. The reason being is that there's a lot of utility in Pepper Spray, so you can kind of run a utility build with this. But if you're going in as kind of like a sort of half damage healer, half healer, you can go for the Monster Taser. But Splash Heal is very good, obviously gives you an extra heal boost. So if you want to be full heal focused, I would recommend going for the Splash Heal, and that means you like a sort of a dedicated utility healer. I would then go with Unstable Laser and Explodomatic Trigger. That's just a pretty standard 1-2 combo in my opinion, and there aren't many other supportive passives right now other than R&B Mixtape. And again, R&B Mixtape just helps support this as like a healing niche. This weapon is primarily used in rifts, so if you're going to be using it, you should really kind of dial in fully on healing if you can to help support your team. This is the build that I would be doing, and basically just allows you to be very heal focused with some utility using the Pepper Spray. And because you're ranged, you're not usually going to be using something like Boombox. So like the Pepper Spray, in my opinion, is just better for the utility of slowing and grouping enemies up for the rest of your team. Vitamin Shot, always good. Pretty much good on every weapon. The only weapon that Vitamin Shot isn't good on is the final setup that I'm going to show you, which is Toothpick and Shield. The reason being is there's no combo attack here, and you don't really get any benefit from an increased attack speed. So with this, I think we are looking at something like, I like Boombox, just because you're going to be in the mix of it, and I also like Smart Fireworks, but also, to be honest with you, I'm perfectly okay with giving yourself some self-healing here, or even just using Monster Taser for a stun. But I think like this setup's pretty strong, lots of area effect, lots of ways to blow up enemies. You don't usually have a huge amount of damage. And again here, because you're going to be in the mix of things, Smelly Socks are pretty good. You can use, I don't think, Unstable Laser's pretty solid, but you don't actually need it because you could either run Smelly Socks or Unstable Laser, and because you're going to be right next to the enemy and tanking them and staying there for long periods of time, I don't think it's as valuable. Whereas I think Explodomatic Trigger is great. I think Vampire Teeth is great. The only problem here is you don't have a lot of self-healing. What I would say is, to be honest with you, the one thing I'd change here maybe is Boombox. The reason being is that this benefits from things attacking you. If you Boombox things and stun them all, you're actually not going to be building up your special ability. So that's why Splash Heal in this instance is probably pretty good. Because the healing that you do to yourself is 25% more valuable due to the passive of Toothpick and Shield. Because any healing you do is going to be harder for the enemy to get the same amount of damage down on you than they would do if you weren't using Toothpick and Shield. So that's why the healing is pretty valuable when it comes out from this. But this would be the setup that I would probably use most of the time. You're designed to be sat there in the middle of enemies. It's one of the few builds where Smelly Socks, I think, works quite well. Explodomatic Trigger is just good at dealing with any large groups of enemies. Vampire Teeth is nice just to give you that extra little bit of sustain. But frankly, you might not even really need it if you're running with the Splash Heal, because Splash Heal probably is good enough to kind of keep you sustained overall. But you might want to experiment between Vampire Teeth and Unstable Laser, just because Vampire Teeth might just keep you topped up whilst you're in the middle of fighting everything. You might want a bit more solo power in terms of clearing with Unstable Laser. You might think R&B Mixtape is quite nice to be a supportive tank. There's a bit of flexibility with what you want to use here on the passives. What I would say here, though, is that I do think this is one of the few builds where Splash Heal even makes sense from a solo purpose, because frankly, you are going to be jumping in, tanking lots of enemies at once, and you don't have the same kind of sustain options, and you don't get the benefit out of Vitamin Shot, so this is probably where Splash Heal makes the most sense with this particular build. I'm not going to show you the healing and tanking kit in action. I just encourage you to experiment with them. They are much more rift-focused weapons, so there'll be things for you to experiment with your team, but I just wanted to show you some of the setups that I think would work pretty well with them. Hope you guys enjoyed this and found it useful. Tell me which builds are working for you. I'd love to hear what builds are working for you guys, and I hope you enjoy the Moco content. I'll see you soon.